So that, perfect. Okay, so welcome everybody to How to Stop Anxiety from Taking Over Your Life. I know it's a big title, but this is a 60-minute training, so it will take about an hour, and it's all about teaching you how to manage overwhelm, how to gain control over that negative spiral that we've got in our heads, and how to find calm in uncertain times. Just for those of you that I haven't met or we haven't actually properly introduced each other to, I'm Ariadne. I'm a life and mindset coach. I'm a yoga and meditation teacher, and my background is in psychological therapies and behavior change. So in this mini workshop, it is a little introduction, but I will give you a taster into my favorite tools for managing that negative voice in your head and finding inner calm, especially at the times when we're challenged. Perfect. So, as I said before, I'm going to ask everybody to remain muted. And if you've got questions, there will be some time at the end, hopefully, as long as I manage my time properly. But what I'm going to ask you to do is use the chat box towards the end. So if you've got any questions, you can add them there, and hopefully I can answer some of them there. So we're going to begin with a little grounding meditation. And I always do this because I feel like we spend so much time, especially now, pandemic times, we spend so much time in front of the computer, and we're kind of maybe a bit overstimulated. And I want us to really start from a grounded place. And so what I'm going to get you to do is sit back and take a moment away from the screen. And if you're comfortable to close your eyes, I don't mind if you have your eyes open, but it might help you to just draw your awareness inwards if you close them. So take a moment to settle in. And if you need to roll your shoulders, go for it. If you want to turn your head side to side, if you want to stretch your arms or give them a little shake. So just taking as much time as you need to feel comfortable here. And as you settle in, notice the feet on the ground or anywhere where you are sitting. Notice the weight of your hips down. And allow your upper body to feel spacious. Check that you're not dropping your head forwards or back. And see if you can relax your jaw. Find a little gap between your upper and lower teeth. Soften the eyes, the throat. So that from a nice and relaxed face, you can send a signal to the rest of your body that it's safe to relax, it's safe to soften. Become aware of any sounds around you. And as you start to now draw your focus even further inwards, start to check in with your breathing. How does your breath feel right now? Where do you feel the breath? And allow the breath to flow freely, without instruction, without changing the rhythm. Simply notice. We're just taking stock here. And then for a moment, start to notice how you feel. Become aware of any thoughts and any emotions that are here in this moment. Again, without having to make them any different to what they are right now. Noticing any judgment that comes up, and shift your focus once again to any feelings and any thoughts that are here with you. And allow any anxiety that's here to arise. Any fear, any doubts, anything that you're currently working with, let that come up too. Let's give it some space. Acknowledge where you feel this anxiety. And if you're not currently feeling any, see if you can remember in your body where you feel it. Noticing sensations. And see if you can now start to release the thoughts, the stories, the judgment, and stay with the physical sensation of anxiety. See if you can allow it the space to be, to express itself. Through the breath, allowing it to be processed. If anything becomes too intense, please feel free to open the eyes and shake it out if you need to. But as you remain focused on that feeling in the body, that feeling of anxiety in the body, start to now imagine that your breath has the capacity to soothe you and heal. We're starting to activate the soothing capacity, the soothing ability of the breath. Start to breathe in a way that feels comforting, releasing, soothing. And very gently begin to direct your breath to the part of your body that feels the anxiety. And as you direct that soothing breath to that part of your body, you may also wish to take your hand there. For example, if you're feeling the anxiety on your chest, you might want to place your hand very gently on the chest. That way, guiding your attention even more focused there. Allowing the breath to soothe you. Breathing in safety. Breathing out fear. Breathing in security. Breathing out stress. Breathing in balance. Breathing out tension. Breathing in calm. Breathing out worry. Taking a couple more breaths here like that. Nice, easing, soothing breaths. Noticing now how you feel. Maybe some of that intensity has shifted, maybe not. Be very gentle with yourselves. Starting to notice once again your hands, your feet. Preparing yourself slowly to return. Become aware of the sounds around you once again. When you feel ready, wiggling the fingers and the toes. And slowly and gently open the eyes to come back. All right, welcome back everyone. So hopefully that has given you a bit of space to really get into your own bodies and to give you really an experience of how it feels to slow down and to ground. All right, let's dive in because we've got a lot to cover. So I have my own notes because I need to help my brain function. So, which is why I might be looking down from now, from time to time. I'm not scrolling through Facebook or anything like that. So we're living in a very strange time. I'm pretty sure you've noticed. We're bombarded by negative news, by pandemics and along with any other personal challenges that we might be going through. And feeling anxious and overwhelmed in 2020 in particular, I believe, is probably the very human and expected response. I mean, it is really understandable for that anxiety to rise. Before we even think about, how to deal with that, but also how to overcome, long-term anxiety and stress and overwhelm, we really need to understand why we experience anxiety and fear in the first place. So very quickly, let's talk about what happens in the body and in the mind when you're feeling anxious or stressed. So you may have already heard of the fight or flight response, and it's also called the stress response. You will have definitely felt it when it's activated. The fight or flight response is a primal physiological mechanism that we've had since we lived in caves, since we had to hunt for food and so on. And it is the body's internal alarm mechanism. It's designed to alert you of any threat to your safety and your survival. So it's essential, and it's a protective mechanism. The fight or flight activates when your brain interprets any situation, any trigger or experience as threatening to you and prepares to either fight it or get the hell out of there. So it is a very intense physical and immediate response that occurs in a split second in your unconscious mind. So you're actually not in direct control of it at will, which explains why sometimes it feels so intense and so automatic. Its purpose is to protect you from a perceived threat, and it can get triggered by an external threat like a situation, someone shouting at you, someone trying to steal your bag, or it can also be an internal threat like pain in the body, or even a thought that gets triggered in our minds. And unfortunately, for a lot of us, the fight or flight response has become hypersensitive, and it's causing us to be in a constant state of hyperarousal. And this means that the fight or flight can be triggered when there's actually no real threat to our survival. And I'm sure a lot of you know what I mean when I say that. We know rationally that there's nothing, there might be many small things that are going on that can trigger stress, but perhaps not in proportion to what we're feeling. Sometimes our response, our reaction is too intense in comparison to what is actually going on. So this leads to living life in our heads, full of fear and negative thoughts, catastrophizing, and often unable to find a solution or to move forward or even to make decisions. So anxiety, as I said, can be very physical. It's very much experienced in the body, but it can also be very cognitive, very mental, triggering repetitive negative thoughts. So today, for the purpose of this workshop, we're going to mostly focus on the mental side, on what's going on in our heads and how to gain control over that spiral. So I'm going to get you to take your notebook just for half a minute or so, not too long, and get you to reflect on what tends to trigger your anxiety. So starting to identify now the triggers, both internal and external. So take a couple of moments and we'll come back here in a second. And you can absolutely skip these bits, but I would highly recommend that you do write them, because it's easy to forget after the training what we've talked about. All right, I'm going to start bringing you back. You can absolutely keep writing, but I'm going to move on because I really want to cover everything. Okay, so it is estimated that we have between 12,000 and 60,000 thoughts daily. I mean, I've put the numbers there because I find that fascinating all on its own. Actually, what's even more fascinating is that 98% of those are repetitive. So we're not really as original as we think we are. And 80% of those are negative. And that percentage can be higher when we're really struggling, when we're going through a difficult phase in our lives. And if we just pause here, can you imagine that? That is such an immense amount of negativity and also repetition in our heads. We have a tendency to think negatively, and if that wasn't bad enough, we tend to repeat those thoughts over and over and over. How exhausting is that? So one negative thought will trigger another. Have you ever wondered why so many of us tend to worry so much, tend to feel so anxious, why we overthink a lot? The thing is, anxiety, as I said earlier, worry and stress are meant to be helpful in terms of being a problem-solving tool. So a rise in anxiety is helpful when it triggers action for you, when it causes you to think, what can I do to fix this? So, for example, if you are anxious about your health, right? You might start to eat more vegetables, you may exercise, you might drink more water, you might go and get a checkup at your doctor. So it triggers you to do something about the thing that makes you feel anxious or worried. Anxiety and worry really keep you in that anxious state, stuck in a negativity spiral over a long term. It keeps you away from the present moment, and the present moment, ironically, is the only place you can make changes in your life, and the only place where you really live. So why do we keep worrying, and why do we keep overthinking? There's a trap that's here that I find really fascinating. The trap is that we believe that if we worry just a little bit more, we will find a solution. And I know that you're here because you know that is not true. Yet we keep going back. Well, if I keep thinking about this, I might figure it out. I might figure it out. I might figure it out. In that way, it's quite addictive. We believe that by analyzing our options again and again and again, by looking for mistakes or possible ways that things can go wrong, we will be better prepared to deal with the consequences or even to avert disaster. The problem is that your mind will always be able to outworry your solutions. We are very good at worrying, at creating more and more thoughts. And no matter how much you try, you will never be able to control every possibility or avert every mistake. And we're living in a year where this has really been proven to us. We can never foresee what's going to happen. No matter how hard you worry, no matter how much you overthink, you will never be able to be 100% certain about what life is going to throw your way, unfortunately. And also fortunately, because that would be quite boring. So all worrying and overthinking does is keep you away from actually living life in the present moment and enjoying yourself. So what do we actually do about it? So the first step really, or the first tool I want to talk to you about, which is then outlined in a couple of steps, as you can see here, is to convert anxiety into action. So we all know that once you're in that negativity spiral, it's basically a rabbit hole. It really feels like that to me. One thought triggers the next and the next and the next, as I said before, and before you know it, you're in a deep dark hole of your thoughts, and that's a scary place to be sometimes. So step one in converting your anxiety into action is to change your physicality. What I mean by this is when we're anxious, we're very much in our heads, right? All your attention and energy is up here in the head, and it's focused inwards and really hyper focused on your thoughts. This causes paralysis, it causes inertia. We can't act out of that. When we over-focus in our thinking and our thinking becomes a spiral, it stops us from acting. It sort of causes paralysis. And it also causes a physical heaviness that perpetuates that fear and reinforces the negative thinking. I'm getting some nods, so I think that people resonate with that. So when you notice this heaviness in your body, use this as a reminder, right? Because sometimes when we're in our heads, it's really hard to really check in with what's going on. So finding another way to notice, so a heaviness in the body, or your heart beating fast, or anything else physical that you can identify, use it as a reminder that you need to get up and change your physicality. For example, get up and stretch out. Go for a walk if you can, even just around the room, or if you're in the office, go around the office. Ideally, get out of, be on the outside. Jump around, do a little shake. Move the stagnant energy, move it around in your body away from your head. Do this even if it feels impossible, trust me. Now, the next step is really important, and they do have to come together. Step 2 is finding solutions. So anxiety loves confusion. And you know what causes confusion? Not doing anything. I know this very well. The feeling of being lost and stuck basically causes us to not act. Not acting causes further confusion, and on goes that loop, right? So after you've moved your body, I've put a few questions to help you convert this anxiety into action. So first question really, or the most powerful one, is what can I do about this, right? So you want to start by identifying what is it that actually makes you feel anxious right now. So before you even think about what you can do, ask yourself, what am I anxious about? What's really going on for me right now? And then, what can I do about this? Sometimes we can't do anything about it, right? A lot of the time we do worry about things that we have minimal or mostly no control over. So alternative questions to ask yourself: who can I ask for help with? If there is nothing I can do, what action can I take to soothe myself? And we're going to talk about soothing in a moment. So what can I do about this? Is there a small action I can take right now to help me move forward with this? Who can help me? What action can I take if I can't do anything about it? What action can I take to soothe myself? All right, let's move on. So I really want to talk about tools that can help you to stop anxiety from taking over. Because I really know how when you're in that moment, it can really take over, and it can then start to take over your day, it can take over your week, and so on. When anxiety will take over, when we let that anxious part of our minds be in charge, and we over-identify with the anxiety, we over-identify with the negative thoughts in our heads, and we give them all our power. We essentially believe that they are true, and we also believe that we are that anxiety, right? We don't separate ourselves from the anxiety or from the fear. We become one with that, and that becomes a problem. So in order to stop anxiety from taking over, we need to find ways to take back control and to start to separate ourselves from that anxious part of our heads. So I've put together some tools which I find to be really effective, really helpful, and also I tend to teach a lot of. So tool 1 is a daily checking in practice. So let's practice it together. Put your pens down, and we're going to take a mindful pause to check in with ourselves. Close your eyes. Begin to take 5 slow breaths here, just like we did at the beginning. Nice, easy breath in, easy breath out. And then ask yourself, how am I feeling right now? Give it some space and see what comes up. Then ask yourself, how is my body feeling in this moment? Allow your mind's eye to scan through the body and identify sensations that are present right now. So how am I feeling? How is my body feeling? And then how is my breathing? Noticing the breath, the natural breath, without it needing to change. Allowing your body to breathe as it needs to in this moment, and you're simply taking stock. How am I feeling? How's my body feeling? How's my breath? And finally, what do I need right now? What would serve me right now? How am I feeling? How's my body feeling? How's my breath? And what do I truly need in this moment? Another way to ask yourself that is, what action can I take to help me feel more calm, to help me feel more relaxed, more energized, whatever it is that you need right now. When you feel ready, you can slowly begin to open the eyes and feel free to make a note of anything that came up through that. I've put the questions down here. How am I feeling? How's my body feeling? How's my breathing? What do I need right now? Or how can I best serve myself right now? And this checking in practice, I would recommend that you do it throughout the day as many times as you need to. You don't even have to close your eyes. You can just lower your gaze and nobody knows what you're doing. It takes less than 5 minutes, but it's really an opportunity to interrupt the autopilot, that habitual tendency to just go, 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 go. It helps you to take control so you're not stuck in that, reactive state, and become more intentional with how you use your energy and what you do, taking responsibility. What can I do? What do I need right now? Okay, so tool number 2, it's kind of my favorite, to be honest, is a daily brain dump. You could call that journaling, but I want to call it brain dump because I want to tell you the goal of it. The goal is to literally dump, okay, maybe not literally, but dump out the crap that's in your head. So you can do it this way. Put a timer for 5 to 10 minutes max. And what you do is essentially you free write onto a piece of paper. I would recommend that you do this with pen and paper rather than typing, again, to step away from technology a little bit. So this is really an opportunity not to analyze your thoughts, not to write literature, not to change your thoughts. All you're doing is moving all of this noise from your head down onto a piece of paper. Then you take the piece of paper and you throw it away. If you have a fireplace, if you're lucky to live in a place with a fireplace, unless it's like really hot right now and you don't want to think of fire, but anyway, burn that shit out or shred it, recycle it. You don't have to read it. So think of it as having a shower for your mind. When you've had a really busy day, maybe you've been to the gym, you're really sweaty and dirty, maybe you've worked in the garden, you have like dirty fingernails and all that. You go into the shower and you clean yourself. You don't then inspect the floor and like pick on the dirt and say, is this useful? Can I make it into something better? Should I have this? Why am I so dirty? you let it go. You let that go. You don't analyze it, okay? So it's the same thing. We do carry a lot of noise and a lot of crap in our heads, and maybe a small percentage is useful. You will know what is useful. So getting into the habit of just releasing, of moving that energy from head down to paper. All right. Tool number 3 is alternate nostril breathing. I was also very tempted to say this is also my favorite. I guess they're all three of my favorites. Okay, so we're gonna actually practice this together. There's many videos and stuff online that you can follow this with, but if you're comfortable too, I wanna give you a physical experience of it. So put your pen down again, and I'm gonna get you to take your right hand, if you can, and place your right thumb just lightly on the right nostril. You don't have to close the nostril, just lightly touch it. You can take your index finger and your middle finger and let them rest on the forehead. And then your fourth finger is gonna rest on the left nostril. So essentially you're gonna be like this. You're gonna touch your thumb and your fourth finger on the tip of the nose on each side. And you're gonna let your index and middle fingers to rest on the forehead. And then that little finger is doing nothing, it's just relaxing. And then you can close your eyes because you don't really have to look at me, but you do have to listen. Now from here, if you've got a strong headache today, I want you to lower your hand and just visualize as I guide you through it. Or if you've got a congested nose, if you've got a cold or anything like that, just again, visualize, don't restrict the breath. Okay. Closing the eyes, let's take a few breaths through both sides of the nose. So nice and easy inhale and exhale through both sides of the nose. And let's do that again. Nice inhale through both. Exhale through both. One more full inhale through both. Nice relaxed breath. Exhale through both. At the end of your exhalation, close your right nostril. Inhale through the left. Close your left, open the right, and exhale. Inhale through the right. Close the right, open the left, exhale. That's one round. Stay on the left to inhale. Close, exhale through the right. Stay on the right, inhale. Close, exhale through the left. That's 2 rounds. Stay on the left, inhale. Close, exhale through the right. Inhale through the right. Close, exhale left. And again, inhale through the left. Nice, easy breath. Close, exhale right. Inhale through the right. Close, exhale through the left. One more round. Inhale through the left. Close, exhale right. Inhale through the right. Close and exhale left. From here, gently lower your hand. And with your eyes closed, take a couple of moments to breathe normally. You may notice that one of your nostrils is a bit more free than the other. That's normal. Just give it some time to balance. And whenever you feel ready, letting the eyes open again. Just take a moment to notice how you feel. So if this is your first time practicing the alternate nostril breath, it might be a bit confusing, but once you've done it a few times, then you can easily follow it. A lot of people say that it helps them to clear their mind. Like the front of the head can feel very heavy, especially when there's a lot of stress and challenge and uncertainty. And practicing this can help to rebalance how the body feels. It's said to rebalance the energy in the body. It's taken from the yogic tradition, so that's why I'm bringing this in. I personally love it. It does help to ground me and sort of I do feel more balanced. I would say 5 to 15 rounds is enough, but make sure the breath is not forced, it's soft and relaxed. All right. Now, I had a bonus tool because I can't stick to 3. It's very hard to pick which ones I wanted. My bonus tool is taken, the inspiration is from my dog. Any of you who have attended any other workshop with me, you are probably fed up of me talking about my dog, but I will continue forever to do this, I think. The idea is that so I have a very anxious dog, unfortunately. She's improved over time, but what I've observed, and those of you that have pets may have also seen this, is that whenever she's aroused, so if she has an altercation with another dog, or if she always watches from actually this window outside into our garden for like cats, foxes, squirrels, flies, any kind of intruder. And, whenever she has any kind of anxiety rising in her body, like her hair goes up, she barks, she wants to tell us that there's a threat. When the threat has gone, when the threat has subsided, when she knows she's safe, what she does is she jumps off wherever she was. So usually she sits on a stool. She comes down on the floor and she does a full body shake, like from her head all the way to the tip of the tail. Like you can see the whole body shaking out. And it's a strong shake. And sometimes she does more than a couple. She will do a few. And it really showed me that actually stress is held in the body, and animals know to shake that crap out. So she doesn't hold on to it going, do you remember that day there was a squirrel? Oh yeah. So she has that memory because she goes and watches always, but it's not held in the body in the same way as, for example, we hold memories, or we hold grudges, we hold a lot of crap. And sometimes we kind of need to let that go, and physically shaking, actually shaking, not just like, oh, okay, I've just done a little oof off my shoulder. No, full on body shake. Put some music, jump up and down, and shake until you're sweating. That's going to help you, and you will feel better. And I know a lot of you do this already, so just a reminder to keep going with that. All right, let's move on. So final part 2, finding inner calm during times of uncertainty. So as humans, we are wired to aim for certainty, all right? So in evolutionary terms, we need to know where our next meal is coming from, that we have a safe roof over our heads, we have found the right mate to procreate and continue, the whatever generation. And we are wired to seek out safety, and knowing what is coming is really at the top of our list, not always consciously, but as a species, really. This is why uncertainty in any way will trigger the loudest fear and anxiety for us. So being in uncertainty is one of the biggest triggers of anxiety. There are times when fear and anxiety are absolutely right. Okay, this is really a disclaimer here. There are times when your anxiety, as I said at the beginning, it is supposed to be there, right? When there's an actual threat, when there is something to be dealt with, and therefore, you will need to listen to that fear and to that anxiety and protect yourself. For example, when there is an actual threat, when there is an illness, or basically needing to slow down and restore. That's also when anxiety rises. And that is important to know, that it's not always, my head is going crazy and I need to ignore it. No, sometimes we do really have to pay attention. However, allowing anxiety to take over in the long term will keep you in that fear cycle. All right, it will keep you in inaction. It will keep you in avoidance and procrastination. And I know a lot of us know a lot about that. So I wanted to share once again some of my favorite practical ways that you can start to create inner calm at those times when you feel the most challenged. All right. So first one is to celebrate your wins, to write down your daily celebrations, kind of like a daily gratitude practice. So gratitude practice is a very, very shared tool, and it's really been found to help people feel more in the present, to reduce stress, and to actually help people to feel happier. So there's actual research that proves this. Now, the way that I find really works for me is to have somewhere near my bed a little notebook, like have a special notebook or just use one of the ones that you already have, but keep it there with a little pen. So at the end of the day, before you go to sleep, you spend not even 5 minutes, but maybe let's say 5 minutes, where you write down 3 to 5 things that you're grateful for today. And they may be things that are big. They may be things that are tiny. I'll give you an example. Big things can be, I'm so grateful that I got this promotion at work. I'm so grateful that my family is healthy. Small gratitudes might be, I'm so grateful that I made some time this afternoon when I was feeling anxious to pause and have a cup of tea nice and slowly. I'm so grateful that I called my friend and we had a really fun chat. So they don't have to be, huge things. In fact, the smaller they are, the more powerful they can be, because they help us to really notice those daily mundane things, quote unquote, that really life is all about. Okay. Now, what you focus on expands, exactly. So really celebrating the things that are good in your life will help you to see more and more and more. My second practice is to set mental boundaries. Always want to talk about boundaries, and I found a way to do this. So mindset really matters, okay? Now, because we are wired to pay attention to negative events more than the positive ones, we need to make a conscious and active effort to direct our attention to the positive and helpful things, to things that are going well in our lives, or to things that are beautiful, to things that we enjoy. That's why setting boundaries with what information you consume is hugely important, and it's going to be very, very powerful in helping you manage anxiety and find that inner calm. So for example, things like social media, technology, news overload, notifications, opinions of others, gossip, and so on. There's so many ways that we consume information, even without knowing, having the radio on constantly, and, maybe it's not the music radio, but it's opinion radio and news radio and da-da-da-da-da radio. And there's the constant information coming in. And all of that is absorbed and retained in your mind. And it kind of keeps you in that anxiety cycle very often. So just like you can choose a healthier diet to nourish your body, choose a mental diet that nourishes your mind. Now, this may seem like kind of an obvious thing, but a lot of us do not have boundaries, or do not have really helpful boundaries, even though we know we should, even though we know when we do it's hugely beneficial, we lose it, right? So take a moment. This is really a moment, a reflective point once again. Take a moment to consider what changes you can make today to make your mental diet more nourishing. So what are you consuming that triggers anxiety? I'm going to give you a couple of minutes here to write that down. So what are you consuming that triggers anxiety for you? I've given you some examples, but really check in with what actually happens for you. And then what two actions can you take to give yourself better mental nourishment? So think, for example, listening to podcasts that give you helpful tips, or that give you a different perspective, that teach you something new. Reading books, taking personal development workshops like this one, or courses. Spending time with people that lift you up, not people that draw you down. So take a couple of minutes here now to just have a think about that. And if you're not writing that, that's fine, but just have a little think about it. Okay, just finishing up what you're writing, so we can move on to the next practice. All right, so final practice, make time for constructive rest. So note that I haven't said make time for relaxation. A lot of us do not know how to relax, unfortunately, and possibly that's why you're here. Or rather, we just can't allow ourselves to do that. We really want to, but we can't. So I've renamed it to constructive rest, because that kind of triggers more ideas as to what it might be. So rest and restoration are essential. They are vital to help your body heal from the effects of anxiety, stress, from illness and trauma. Rest and restoration are essential, really something to take away from today. If you're constantly on, if your nervous system is constantly on, running on fight or flight response, or simply a higher level of stress throughout the day, throughout long periods of time, your nervous system will be exhausted, your body will be exhausted. You may be experiencing burnout, you may find it super hard to switch off, as I said earlier. We are taught that in order to be successful, there's a narrative that we have to keep pushing, keep producing, keep achieving. In order to be happy, we need to keep going always. We need to, and that leads to sort of an addictive rhythm of pushing and of competing and of comparing ourselves to others, of never feeling like we are enough. It is almost an act of rebellion, and I think it actually is an act of rebellion, to slow down and to make regular time for constructive rest. So know that if you're resisting this, or if you're finding it really hard, or if there's guilt or even shame around resting and relaxing or giving yourself time for your well-being, this is normal. This is something that is, we are conditioned to believe. So it will take time to shift that belief. Constructive rest can be really any activity that helps your body switch from the fight or flight to the rest and digest, or the relaxation response. And that's when the relaxation response is on, that's when your body can digest, it can heal disease, and it can recover obviously essential aspects to our well-being and our survival. This happens during sleep, but also at other times. So some examples that work for me, they may not work for all of you, but I'm going to share with them anyway, is when I practice yin or restorative yoga, so slower pace yoga, meditation or breath work, depends on the breath work, but mostly meditation, when I walk around nature, but I'm not consuming anything, so I'm not on my phone, I'm not listening to music, excuse me, or yoga nidra. Yoga nidra is a guided practice of yogic sleep, if you like. It's essentially a deep relaxation. You don't have to be completely still when you are practicing constructive rest, but you do have to ensure you're not watching TV, you're not scrolling through Instagram, you're not working through your to-do list. It's really an active rest where you switch off from, you know, the consumption that we talked about. Okay. Once again, take a moment, a very brief moment, because that might be an easy one to think about. What are some ways that you can include constructive rest in your week? So they don't have to be, I'm going to take a week holiday and go away and hide from the world. If you can do that, great. But I'm more interested in little moments, little activities that you have the ability to include regularly in your week. All right. So, a closing thought I want to leave you with. Who are you underneath all the anxiety? Reconnect to what you love, what excites you, what brings you joy, what makes you happy. Making more space for the real you, so the part of you that is not the anxiety, that is not filled with the anxious and fearful thoughts. Prioritizing the things that connect you, right? To yourself, will remind you that there is so much more beyond the voices in your head. So really check in with, who am I underneath all this anxiety? Can I, especially at times of challenge, especially at times of uncertainty, even though that is probably the hardest time to do this, can I slowly and gently connect and make time for the things that connect me to me, so that I can amplify this part of me without always having to fight the anxiety or to fight the fear. The anxiety and the fear are going to be there because, as we said, they're protective mechanisms. What we don't want to do is let them lead the way. We don't want them to be running the show. We don't want them to be driving the car. Whatever analogy you want to use or metaphor, use it. You are the one who's in charge, not that anxious part of your brain. It is just a part. There's so many other parts. There's your intuition, there's your creativity, there's your spirituality. There's so much more. So connect to what really is there for you besides or underneath the anxiety. All right. Thank you so much, everyone. So much. I know I whizzed through it. I really hope you found this helpful. And I would encourage you, after we close the workshop for today, I would encourage you to take a further 5 minutes and sit down to write 3 things that you're excited to try after today. So it's really key to identify your takeaways, your learnings from today, so that you can actually start to engage with the material that's here. And remember, this is a huge topic, right? This is just an introduction into managing anxiety and taking control over your negative thinking. There is so much more, so please be gentle with ourselves. I have created a whole course designed to help you to go much deeper into this and all the practices and more. I'm going to be opening up enrollments for Space to Breathe, the Anxiety Antidote, today. And they were going to be open only to you, so the people registered on this workshop. And Space to Breathe is a 4-week online self-study course. And it is a complete roadmap to understanding and overcoming the impact of stress, overwhelm, and anxiety by going through 4 key layers: the body, the mind, mindset, and soul and spirit. So body, mind, mindset, and soul. And it teaches you everything you need to know to stop anxiety from taking over your life, your body, to manage the negative mind chatter, to build confidence in yourself, and to know how to ground and self-soothe at times of uncertainty. So as I said, I'm going to open registrations for Space to Breathe tonight. It's completely updated. I created it earlier this year, and from feedback, I have reviewed it and updated it. And I'm offering everyone who's attended this training today a special price, which is £50. I was going to say more. Special price, you're going to pay extra. £50 less than the full price. Along with 2 time-sensitive bonuses. So I'm not going to talk you through now. I know that we all have to finish, and you're not going to retain this information. So what I am going to do is, along with the recording, that's the replay of this workshop, you're going to receive all the information about Space to Breathe and how you can enroll. So just keep your eyes peeled this evening for that extra information. So if you have any questions and you want to share them now in the chat box, I will stay here for another few minutes and let me just answer the questions, maybe a couple, because we don't want to overrun. But otherwise, thank you so much. If you do need to leave, I absolutely understand. Thank you for coming, and my details are on here. So if you need to check in with me, if you have any further questions, feel free to let me know. All right, let me just see